Martignetti nonprofit radio coverage of 18NTC. You know what that is. It's the 2018 Nonprofit Technology Conference. We're coming to you from the Convention Center in New Orleans. This interview, along with all our 18NTC interviews, is sponsored by Network for Good, easy-to-use donor management and fundraising software for nonprofits. My guests right now are Beth Kanter, Carrie Rice, and Meico Whitlock. Welcome, all three of you.
Welcome.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for having us.
It's our pleasure. My pleasure. Thank you very much, Carrie. Beth Kanter is master trainer, speaker, author, blogger, and her latest book is The Happy Healthy Nonprofit. Carrie Rice is principal at Carrie Rice Consulting, and Meico Whitlock is founder and CEO of Mindful Techie. All right. Your workshop topic is how to conquer technology distraction and burnout and be more present for yourself, team, and organization. All right, that's pretty lofty. Presence. I feel like starting right in the middle. Carrie, we're not so present so often, are we?
Well, we broke up our session into our presence for ourselves, our presence for our team, and our presence for our overall organization.
Okay.
And that was my focus, was really about what are we doing to make it possible for those of us who aren't members of the paid staff necessarily to remain present for the organization in a way that's not pushing them past their use of technology in a mindful way that's to their own benefit as well as for the organization.
Okay, so each of you, I guess, has a part of this this three-tiered presentation. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So then Carrie is the organization, being
Right.
present in the organization. Okay. The host needs some notes to keep this straight. And Beth, what's yours?
I'm the we.
The we,
Yes.
ourselves.
The we being teams or internal organization staff working together.
Okay. And Meico, what is your part of this?
The I, the individual.
Oh, you're the individual. Okay. So how do Beth and Carrie distinguish the two? Yours is the organization. Oh, you're outside the organization.
Right, external.
Carrie's outside the organization and remaining and being present. And
Right.
you're in the internal. Okay.
Right. Got it?
Yeah, I do. All right, so far. Yeah. I hope I don't lose it. I got it. Okay. We're also trying to overcome tech burnout. We're all concerned about tech burnout. What's the trouble here, Meico?
Well, the trouble is twofold. So one is what I describe as intention deficit disorder, where we have a lack of clarity about what it is we actually focus on in any particular moment.
I don't think that's a phrase you coined. I mean, I think that's out there, isn't it? Attention deficit disorder?
Intention.
Oh, intention.
Intention.
Well, I'm glad okay. Intention deficit disorder. IDD.
Yes, IDD.
Okay. All right. I'm glad I made that clear.
Yes, and so part of the work I do is around helping people to take a step back and to really reflect on what it is that you're trying to do, in particular in the context of a nonprofit organization. You know, what's your role and what are you pushing in terms of the actual mission and the outcomes? So that's one aspect of it. The other aspect of it is that we have to recognize that the technology is designed in such a way that it's intentionally draining our attention, right? So it's, we have push notifications that are set up by default, for example, for social media, for our mobile devices, and we have to understand that that's intentional, but there are also ways for us to control that. We can turn off those notifications. We can use certain apps and applications to regain our attention, to be more present, but those are sort of the two aspects of it. Lack of intention, and then also the intentional effort by companies to actually take and hold and keep our attention.
Lack of intention. Okay, thank you. And welcome back to Nonprofit Radio.
Thank you.
You and I talked in 2016.
Yes.
And the other person on the panel who I spoke to in 2016 was Beth Kanter. We were talking about your what was then your new book.
Yes. The Happy Healthy Nonprofit.
The Happy Healthy Nonprofit, which is still, you can still get it. It's not like it's out of print or anything, but in 2016 it was new. And your co-author was?
Elisa Sherman.
Elisa Sherman. Is she here?
Not this year.
Not this year. Okay. And how is this work today different than what we talked about in 2016 in the Happy Healthy Nonprofit?
Well, if we go back to that radio program in your archives, we talked about self-care and taking care of ourselves and a culture of well-being. So this is a subset of it, and specifically how staff working together can be highly productive and less distracted and get their works done.
Yeah.
And I think what we're faced with is something called collaborative overload, which is back-to-back meetings, too many emails, too many platforms, and that keeps us from getting things done. So a lot of what I talked about is how can you be more intentional about your work together to combat this distraction.
Okay, we have some interesting phrases. Lack of intention, intention deficit disorder, collaborative overload. Carrie, did you come with a special phrase? Welcome to Nonprofit Radio.
Thank you very much.
As a newcomer, welcome.
I always surround myself with the best. So
Yeah, you are. Well, you're on Nonprofit Radio.
Exactly. I'm on Nonprofit Radio
you'd be
with you
the,
and Beth and Meico. Doesn't
That's
get
right.
much better than that. Well, I come from a world where my branding is called empathetic nonprofit management, which is basically that all the stakeholders of the organization should be treating each other the same way that we treat the recipients of the services that we provide. So the empathy that we have towards the puppies or the homeless people we provide, the same level of empathy towards donors, towards board members, towards members, that we're looking at each of those groups through that same empathetic lens. And so by doing that and then combining that with technology, it's about changing the expectation of what we do internally on our team or what we do as individuals based on the work that Meico is suggesting, that we're saying, well, maybe that doesn't all apply to the external stakeholders who aren't actually getting paid to do the work that we're doing as professionals.
Maybe it does not. Okay, there's a lot here. We're going to unpack it. I'm the remedial person on the panel, okay, because you all have been thinking about this for years or at least years, right? I mean, years, or at least months in collaborating around this. I'm the newcomer. But I'm going to do my
decade.
best. I'm going to, okay, right, well, okay. I'm trying to average. I'm taking the average.
Average,
I'm taking an average, okay? On average. All right.
So you're a quick learner.
So bring me along. Yeah, be respectful. Okay. I don't know. Where should we? I want to start with the. I'd like to start with the I, actually, down the end. Okay.
All right.
I want to start with the individual. The lack of intention. This is all around helping us to stay focused, right?
Yes.
So that we can be more mission successful.
Yes.
It's all for the good of the social.
Yes.
The societal good. But if we don't bring it down to if we don't start with the individual, we can't be maximally efficient in helping change the world.
Yes.
Yes. Is that a decent context I put it in at least?
Yes, and so
Okay.
I use a framework to people to sort of have a place to go when they get distracted, right? So distraction is inevitable. So what we're talking about is giving people a tool, a framework that they can walk through. It starts with understanding your why or your purpose. So why are you showing up? Why are you committed to the work that you're doing? And then understanding based on your why and your purpose, what are your actual goals? And you might have many goals that you focus on at any point in time. And once you identify what your goals are, you have to actually prioritize. Because we recognize that with multitasking, we're actually more effective if we focus on as few things as possible.
We're not very good multitaskers, actually, are we? Even though we think we are?
Well, that's
Wait, are we? Are we
Well-
good I thought we were not. Are we? Am I wrong?
Well,
You could say I'm wrong. Am I wrong?
Well, in a technical sense, when it
I
comes
mean, well,
to...
wait, ladies, you can talk too. This is not only me and Meico. Am I wrong about multitasking? I thought we were not very
Well,
good.
truly, you can't really multitask.
Exactly.
And when you're doing two different tasks, your brain is just switching back between the two.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And every time it
Which
switches,
creates delays.
and
right?
it also uses up brain cells.
and raises cortisol levels.
Cortisol levels too? Raises
Yeah.
cortisol levels?
Yep.
Multitasking does? Oh, so
Yep.
I was right. Okay. How come nobody said I was right?
I am going to tell you that I think you're right. It depends on
Okay.
how we define multitasking.
How come everybody was so silent when I asked for
Yes, for
affirmation?
me-
I was seeking affirmation, and I
Okay.
wasn't
Well,
getting
next time I'll give it to
I
you.
mean, as long as it's deserved. I mean, don't
Oh,
hold,
of course it's
don't
deserved.
hold back. I mean, if I'm wrong, say I'm wrong. But if I'm right, jump on it. You know, it doesn't happen that often.
There you go. I'll give you credit where credit is
All
due.
right.
Yeah, I actually like transitioning between projects. It's just that for me, I have to set aside an amount of time that works best for me to make those transitions.
Right. And that time is probably more than 90 seconds. We're
Yes,
not-
actually,
right?
it is more than 90 seconds.
Because another thing about multitasking is it takes you several seconds to re-find yourself, reacquaint yourself with the task that you left that you're now
Yes.
going back to.
Yes.
That can take as long as 9 or 10 seconds.
Or more,
When you're like bouncing just quickly. I mean, it could take 10 minutes if you're writing something,
Yes.
you know, if there's a bigger piece or something. I mean, all right.
Because it's
all
not
right,
just
all
the switching cost, it's also the cost of actually getting back to the place where you left off, right? And that takes
Yeah.
some time to sort of speed up again.
Right. Okay. All right, so go ahead. We're focusing on the I. You know what? I have a question for you, though.
Sure.
How does the I, how does what you're describing relate to what Carrie's part of this is? I mean, you're talking about, Carrie's talking about the individual as a off-site worker or as a consultant to an organization, but you're also talking about an individual.
Yes.
How do your topics today differ?
Well, I would say that they overlap, and so when we talk about
All
the
right, so
I,
there's
we're
some
talking
overlap. All
about obviously the individual, right? Organizations are not just things; they're made up of people. And the same thing when we talk about boards and other external stakeholders, we're talking about people. And individually, we have to be able to show up as our best selves, so that collectively, when we come together, we can maximize our collective effort.
Right.
And-
Carrie, okay,
Yeah.
now, so Carrie, where's the overlap?
Right. So for
and what's
me,
different?
if someone were following Meico's presentation yesterday about the ability to say yes and to be able to say no with intentionality, then I want a board member who feels comfortable saying no to me, because then when they say yes to me, I know they really mean it, because I know that they have the skill set to say, my schedule is too busy to be doing that right now, or it doesn't fit into my why of why I'm involved with this organization specifically.
Okay. I saw you nodding. Did you want to add anything, Beth? Beth has promised not to swear this time. You can go back to, no, it was not 2016. It was at fundraising day in New York City. So like 2014 or something. My voice just cracked. 14. And Beth dropped.
Actually, 2013.
Was it 13? You
Yes.
remember better than I?
Yes.
Okay. 2013, fundraising day, NYC. And Beth dropped the F-bomb, which she's promised not to do now because I have affiliate stations that are governed by the FCC. So there'll be no. We can't use the seven. We can't use the 7 words that George Carlin had a lot of fun with.
Okay.
Okay. In any case, there's a little context for
Yeah.
the long-term listeners. Will remember Beth dropping the F-bomb
And if they have
twice in the same discussion.
And certainly new visitors can go to your archives. And
Yes,
listen
they
to
can.
these
Yes,
shows,
they
right?
can. From 2013, Beth was only on one time that year. You can find Kanter at TonyMartignetti.com. Get the 2013 appearance from fundraising day in New York City. Okay, with that context, was there something you wanted to add to the discussion so far?
Yeah, I think the collaborative overload is made up of four things, the 4 Ps, and they're not bad words.
Yeah.
Don't get
Yeah, no.
So planning,
I trust you.
planning, priorities, being present, and then people. So our relationships and interaction with staff and how we work together, communicate, and collaborate on projects can lead to burnout and stress. And certainly having, just for example, let's say my phone's here, right?
Picking up her
This
iPhone.
is this is like technoference, and a bunch of people are doing this at a staff meeting. It's getting in the way of getting things done. We're not giving each other our full attention and intentionality, as Meico likes to
And
say.
I even consider that, maybe you have a word for this. I call it insulting. When I'm talking.
Technoference.
Technoference? Yeah.
Insulting technoference.
I'm a little offended. I'm talking at a meeting and people are picking up their phones. I'd rather they walk out. This way I think they're going to the bathroom and I'm not tracking their time. So if they're gone for 15 minutes, it doesn't trouble me. I'd rather they leave and come back than do it while I'm talking.
But here's the thing, and it's a lot of what I talked about in terms of the we. We have to be intentional about the way we're working together. So if there are work norms and we're being explicit at a meeting, we're not checking our phones during the meeting or our technology unless it's supporting the technology, or else it's a device-free meeting.
Okay. All right. So we can help with policies. Yeah.
Ground rules, yeah.
Ground
But
rules, exactly.
we're also
Yeah,
trying
yeah.
to set norms that have to do with acknowledging real life happening. So for me, having someone come into a staff meeting and say, I'm waiting to find out if my father's okay in the hospital, so I'm going to be looking at my phone during the meeting.
That's an exception.
Exactly, but having that norm set so that someone isn't sneaking away to look at their phone and distracted from the meeting, but to be able to share with the members of the team, this is why I'm distracted right now, I'm doing the best I can, then everybody else can give that person support and make them more successful.
I agree. And then that intentionality around it, here's the reason why. Okay. We're about halfway through, and we've talked about why this is important. I want to spend time on strategies. So our listeners are in small and mid-sized nonprofits. How can they apply this work to them, or if they are an outsider, or maybe even a virtual employee, Carrie, right? Might your part of this might also apply to a virtual employee?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay. So
yeah, I mean,
I want to drill down to strategies. Okay?
Yeah, and specifically when it comes to technology, wellness with external stakeholders, my rule is simplicity, is that sometimes the complicated solutions like using, for example, Slack for us to keep track of our conversations, for a lot of people who don't work in a corporation or in an office or in a nonprofit, they don't know anything about that program.
Yeah.
So coming up with a simpler simpler solution and saying, oh, let's just use Google Chat or let's just use text messaging or something like that. It's a simpler solution for an external stakeholder than an internal stakeholder like the teams that Beth's talking about, where you can actually say, okay, everybody needs to get up to speed on this particular technology. But it's really hard to do that when it's someone who is a donor or a board member or an external consultant or someone who's working off-site.
So you'd probably rather I didn't say we're boiling it down for the lowest common denominator.
I prefer not to use that phrase whenever possible, but I'll stick with simplicity.
Okay.
Yes, keep it
right.
simple, silly. I won't say stupid. Keep it simple, silly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Good enough. Meico, how about some drill down to strategies to overcome this tech burnout?
Yeah, so the first thing I would say is that not every solution is a digital technology solution. And so starting with just taking time to really get clear about your intentions, and as Beth was saying, establishing norms in terms of policies around how you actually meet and how technology is involved or not in those meetings, and using the time at the beginning of the meeting to just run through really quickly, hey guys, this is what we agreed to, no cell phone today, is everyone okay with that? And running through it that way. The other thing I would say...
And that will be the time to raise your hand and say, my father's in the hospital.
Exactly.
I'm doing the best I can.
Exactly.
Okay.
But if you're looking for a technology solution, there are a number of apps out there that are really cool that really help you to be clear about your intention and to help you not to spend as much time on your devices doing things that aren't moving your mission or your why forward. So I think of Moment, for example. Moment is an app that you can download for the iPhone and for Android.
Moment.
Yes, Moment.
Okay.
And it essentially keeps track of how often you're actually using your phone and how often you're actually using different apps. And so you can look at the data that you're getting from this and actually have an awareness, oh, I'm spending 2 hours a day on Facebook. I'm spending 3 hours, looking at Instagram. Like that's 5 hours out of my day. Maybe I can be spending that time doing something else. So that simple awareness can be enough to really begin to instigate a shift in behavior.
Okay. Beth? Strategy?
Strategy for the team.
For the team.
One that's real popular is to have an email charter, which includes things like what is your policy around after-hours emails, which can cause a lot of stress. It's not so much the amount of time; it's the sense that you're on call all the time.
Yeah, it's just the existence of it.
Right. So having a really formal policy about for normal business email, emergencies and disaster relief and all that is an exception. We don't expect you to reply to your email right away between 7 p.m. and 7 a.m. Sometimes it takes, making sure that the senior leadership understands this and is modeling that behavior as well.
Yes. And now if there's not CEO and down buy-in, none of these strategies are going to be adopted, right?
Exactly.
There's exceptions. If the CEO is allowed to look at her phone during the meetings, the whole thing crumbles, right? We got nothing to base it on.
Right, and that came up in our session as well. Mm-hmm. Someone asked that. My CEO's looking at the phone all the time, and there's so many things I want to implement, but I can't. And I asked that person, well, do you manage a team? She said, my senior management won't listen to me. And I said, do you manage a team? And I said, yeah. Does your team listen to you? Well, most of the time. And I said, well, create that culture on your team.
Exactly.
Change what you can change.
Exactly. Know what you can control, yep.
Okay. That came out in a previous conversation today, too. I'm trying to think about what the context of that was. Oh, it was trying to get buy-in from above. Mm-hmm. Actually, we labeled them the buy-in bitches. Bitches is okay.
Oh, all right.
Bitches is okay. Carrie and Lara, I think. They're a very good team. They're very good together. They used to be at the Humane Society of U.S. And anyway, we dubbed them the buy-in bitches. But one of them said, if you can't make get the buy-in above, then manage what you can on your team. So same
idea.
Thing.
Yeah.
And then show it off to when your boss sees how productive your team is being.
Right.
And they say, well, what's the secret? Why is your morale so good? Why is your productivity so good? And then you're able to say, because we manage expectations, we set norms, then you're managing up.
Exactly.
And there was another instance that came up with, in this case, it was a consultant. My clients expect me to respond to them right away. How do I address that expectation? And it's kind of, well, if you reply, you've set up the expectation.
Exactly.
You break the norms.
Yes.
Yeah.
You teach people how to treat you, essentially.
Yeah. So, you have to set the boundaries early.
Yes.
Right. Beth is right. That first time, if you respond immediately, that's the rule.
And that becomes the norm.
However, if you reply with, or if you maybe make a call instead of replying with the email. I don't do after hours. I don't do after 8 p.m. emails or whatever. I mean, I have my own life. You set the boundaries, you set the expectations early, and 99 people out of 100 are going to respect that, I think.
Yes, and I write it into my consulting contracts, actually, that I only do work between normal business hours.
Okay, well, you're the mindful techie.
Right.
If you're screwing this up, then forget it. Get off. Shut his mic off. I mean.
Right, but I saw Kivi LaRue Miller speak recently at BloomCon, and she was talking about the types of roles where we want to be responsive to our members in real time. And so having there be certain members of your staff who have a different work schedule where they're in the office only 25 hours a week, and then they're available evenings and weekends 15 hours a week to be checking, so that if someone posts and says, oh my gosh, what do I do about my dog? There's someone who can respond in real time and say, we can't help you with that. Why don't you try calling this emergency number?
So,
but that they don't have to work full time in the office if they're going to be available during alternative hours. That's something that they actually negotiate with their workplace, and the expectations are managed, and that it actually works really well. Kivi, it was an example that Kivi gave, and I thought that was a great way of thinking of it when we do want to be able to be responsive during weird times.
that's also has implications across time zones.
Yes.
Yeah.
Likewise, I mean, we're the people on the West Coast. What's the expectation? And Carrie, in your case, maybe you're a consultant or a virtual employee on the West Coast. Are you expected to be up and working at 6 a.m. or do you work the hours of your zone? There are policies that cut both ways.
Right.
But what is our policy? That's all.
Right, it gets back to those
we just
norms.
need to know. We need to know what the norms are, what the ground rules are. Yeah. What's BloomCon?
BloomCon, the Bloomerang Conference. They do a couple of them per year.
Okay.
Yeah. Bloomerang does an educational conference, which I know a lot of other vendors do as well.
Okay.
So that their clients are actually getting a lot of information as well as using excellent products, across the board.
Okay. Is that Jay Love? Is Jay Love involved with Bloomerang?
Yes, he founded Bloomerang, I believe.
Jay Love, I thought so. He's been on the show. All the good people now, and even more good people.
Like I said, I only surround myself with the best company.
All right.
Yeah, good taste, Carrie.
We still got a couple of minutes left. Let's go back to you, Meico. You got another strategy, tip, tool, best practice?
Yes, so you can take control of when you come to your digital devices like your tablets and your mobile devices.
Oh, excellent.
You can actually take control. So the defaults might be set to push notifications to you, for example, for every time you get an email, every time someone likes a post on Facebook. But you can actually adjust those settings so that you're not getting pinged every time.
Is it really necessary to get an email every time somebody likes a post or comments on a post? Is it really essential? Is it essential? I think not. Right?
Well, it's real. I imagine there could be circumstances where that might be the case. If you're managing social media on behalf of a brand, maybe it does make sense if you're monitoring comments. But as an individual, maybe not. Especially if it's getting in the way of you getting meaningful work done.
Okay, excellent. So look at those defaults.
Yes.
Because the platforms want you engaged.
Exactly. That's how they make their money.
Okay. Yes. Yeah. LinkedIn with the what is LinkedIn? You can vote somebody with. You can give somebody a
endorsements.
An endorsement.
Yes.
Yeah. With the endorsements. Oh my God, it's rampant. First of all, they're meaningless. It's just an engagement hook.
Yes.
I think. All right. We don't need to be notified. I'm sharing my bias. Sorry. Okay. But it's host privilege. I don't know. You're not smiling? No, you don't think it's host privilege? I think it is. All right. Listeners are accustomed to this. These rants. Okay. Another strategy. Something else we can do within the organization. What can we do?
Routinized reflection.
Okay. Flesh that out.
Okay.
RR, your alliteration.
Okay. So a big cause of stress and burnout is what I call fire drill leadership, or fire drill culture, which is basically, oh my God, the grant's due tomorrow, all hands in the conference room, let's get this done.
Yeah.
And kind of, if there are fire drills, which happen, it's having the discipline to push the pause button and figure out, is there a bigger systems issue or something we can address so we don't have this fire drill next time?
Yeah, weekly fire drills, not appropriate.
No,
Yeah,
and it pulls people off their work. It creates a lot of stress. And if the leader has that fire drill leadership culture, it's the shrill voice. It just causes a lot of stress.
Yeah.
And that's not productive.
It's giving me, I got to chill. I mean, I got a physiological reaction, just as you were describing.
And I didn't even do it in full fire drill voice.
Right.
No, she didn't run around or anything like that.
I think my cortisol might have risen.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, excellent. What about, you said, you call that routinized reflection?
Yes.
Okay. What about in the organization? I don't know, a collective time together, devoted collective time that's not devoted to work, but,
Yeah. I would
some
call
kind
those-
of other reflection or something.
Well, two things, two quick tips.
Okay. Yeah,
So there's the 5 whys, which is an exercise when the fire drill happens. Sit down with the team, do a 20-minute brainstorm. Why did this happen? Oh, because we didn't have the grant on the calendar.
Okay.
Oh, why did that happen? Oh, well, we don't have a grants
Yeah,
calendar.
so I've heard this before. You're drilling down, asking why.
Right. So that's a really good practice.
Until we actually find out the root cause. We
Right.
sift through all the symptoms
Right.
and get to the root cause.
And try to fix it.
Yeah.
The other one is
Because we have bad time management tools. Or we're
Right.
not using time management tools. Okay.
Or culture.
Deadline management tools.
Right.
A little saliva flying there. That's mine. Sorry about that.
You're not
Okay.
sick, so
It
that's
doesn't- no,
fine.
I know, but it's still gross. It was on the table. Didn't hit anybody.
Okay, and the other thing is having look-ahead rituals, and a lot of nonprofits do this.
Look-ahead
Many
rituals,
don't,
yes,
which is like look at
yes.
you probably do this because you're scheduling. What's coming up the next quarter, the next month? One organization that I know, they have stop days. And stop days they don't have any internal meetings that one day a month. It's actually a development team, and they work on getting that deep thinking done, the creative planning, finishing up the proposal they didn't write. So it's not filled with all the meetings and deadlines and stress.
Okay. Carrie, I'm going to give you the last shot. Unbelievably, we're almost done. Last tool, tip, strategy, tech, idea. What do you got?
Both of my tools would be empathy and empathy. It would be self-empathy. It would be taking a moment and assessing yourself and looking at all the expectations you have for yourself and others have for yourself, and then empathizing and really thinking about what you're actually going through. And then every other stakeholder you work with, just walking a mile in their shoes and just imagining what's challenging them and how can you make it easier for them as well.
Be empathetic.
Empathetic.
Awesome. Thank you all three very much. This one flew. This
Thank
one
you.
flew. Sometimes I got to pull teeth. This one, not like that. Okay. They are Beth Kanter, Master Trainer, Speaker, Author, Blogger. Carrie Rice, Principal, Carrie Rice Consulting. Meico Whitlock, Founder and CEO, Mindful Techie. And you are with nonprofit radio coverage of 18NTC. This interview is sponsored by Network for Good, easy to use donor management and fundraising software for nonprofits. Thank you so much for being with us.